So, is it that time in your life yet? Do you feel like your family is complete and you and your spouse want to not worry about changing that? Well, the decision can be difficult, but the recovery doesn't have to be. After your vasectomy, you gotta get testes. Doctors usually recommend a jockstrap and ice for your boys to help with comfort. Well, testes is the best of both worlds. This is for the man who is out on the go and needs to get things done. You get the ice packs from the freezer, strap up, and saddle up. The packs give you at least 20 minutes of comfort, even if you're just sitting around watching the game. And most important, guys, no wet spots. Put on the jockstrap under your briefs and go about your day. They come in 3 sizes, medium, large, and extra large to get your right fit. Now head on over to testes.com. That's TEST-EEZE.com. TEST-EEZE.com. Your wife is going to thank you for the snip, and your testes are going to be thanking me. Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and join in the discussion. Don't forget, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com is there if you have a more lengthy comment or question. And you can find me personally, Slim Dayspring12, on Twitter and Instagram. Well, that's it here. It's it, guys. Zack Snyder's Justice League has been released on HBO Max. Quite a journey, I'll tell you what. I sat down Thursday. It was funny, Thursday came out, and while I was working, several people were messaging me, hey, did you watch the Snyder Cut yet? Did you see the Snyder Cut yet? And I'm like, I'm working, okay? I'll watch it when I get home if I have the time. And of course, it was a day where it was going to be a little bit later for me, so I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I want to watch this, on my TV in the living room, dark, loud, get the full experience of it. But my daughter has, a bedtime, and I can't, play it that loud. So it was like, okay, I got home. I'm like, do I have 4 hours to actually sit down and totally enjoy this? I really did not, but I got through most of it before my daughter's bedtime, and then I turned the volume down a little bit. But I sat down, I watched it, and now I'm going to share my thoughts. And of course, for those of you who don't know, I always do spoiler reviews. So if you have not seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, you don't want anything spoiled, really, pause, go watch it, come back 5 hours later, and you can listen to this review and, head on over to the social media groups and then talk about what you agree with, don't agree with, all that stuff. Okay, so just to give you a little brief history, of course, those of you who may not follow what kind of a big deal this all really is. It goes all the way back to 2013 when Man of Steel came out. That was, Zack Snyder's first DC film where he was going to build this kind of epic anthology that kind of rivaled the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, because that's what Warner Brothers want. They saw Marvel over there, with their cinematic universe being successful, making money, and, Warner Brothers wanted the exact same thing. So they had Zack Snyder come on, which Zack Snyder, I don't think he's a bad filmmaker, but I'm not a huge fan of his, He's done movies like Watchmen, which I enjoyed, Sucker Punch, not a big fan of, although I remember when I watched that in theaters, I was like, man, this is like a 12-year-old boy's dream or something, It was just, anyway, and then there was 300, which a film that I liked when I first saw, but the more I watch it, the less I like it. The thing about it is I'm a big Superman fan, so when they said Zack Snyder is doing a Superman movie, I kind of wasn't big on that idea because based off those films, his style, I don't think it really meshed with Man of Steel. So watched the movie and I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. In fact, I think I hated it. It really wasn't not some of the directing stuff. It was the story choices. It was the story choices and the plot and some of the other things that really I didn't enjoy about the film. So not a fan of that. Batman v Superman comes out, and that film, ugh, the theatrical version. By the time you get to Doomsday, my head is down in the theaters, and I'm like, oh God, just make this stop, please, because I was so done with it, and I wasn't looking forward to Justice League. Justice League comes out, I think it's like a year later, and it's not great either. I don't think it was bad, but it wasn't great either. I prefer it probably over the other two, to be honest. But here's what happened then is from my eyes, the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman comes out. And the film had an extra half hour of deleted scenes in it. And when you watch it, you realize all the deleted stuff, all the stuff that was taken out for the theatrical version were Superman / Clark Kent stuff. And it was stuff that would like fill in plot holes. Like I never understood the beginning of the film. In the desert, Lois gets taken captive. Superman goes to save her. The bad guys shoot the villagers and they try to blame it on Superman. But the guys use bullets, okay? When does Superman ever use fucking bullets? Why is he getting blamed? And in the Ultimate Edition, you come to find out that they burn the bodies. They put the bodies up and they burned them to make it look like Superman used his heat vision, okay? So there's that. Another story point, of course, going later on, is that the bomb explosion in the Senate hearing, the guy in the wheelchair, Wally, Superman didn't stop the bomb from going off, and he kind of blames himself, like, I didn't see it because I wasn't looking. And again, people are blaming Superman for it. Well, you come to find out, again, Lois finds out, the reason he didn't see it because the wheelchair was made of lead, so he couldn't see it. And that is another plot point that was left out of the fucking theatrical cut. I cannot believe it. And it blows my mind. So the Ultimate Edition, I say, is one of my top 10 favorite comic book / superhero films of all time. I love watching the Ultimate Edition. Yes, it's a little longer, but honestly, it makes a lot more sense. Fills in all those plot holes from the theatrical cut. You get to the Martha scene, which some people find ridiculous. I think it's a much more earned moment when you're going through the characters. So Ultimate Edition Batman v Superman, I liked. And it was kind of that kind of said to me, wait a minute now, if this is really maybe what Zack Snyder shot or what he wanted to do, maybe I should give him a little more credit considering what he wanted to do with Justice League but didn't get a chance to. Years went by and Zack Snyder would put out stuff online about pictures from footage that wasn't used in Justice League or dialogue, script, plot points. And, after reading the kind of the storyline of what he originally intended for the film, I thought, not bad. I kind of would want to read the script one day, but didn't have to because the film is now released on HBO Max for everyone to see. And I know there's a lot of people out there that fought really hard, campaigned really hard for the Snyder Cut. It's been a mixed bag. A long journey for this to come out. A lot of behind the scenes drama going on with this film as well too. So, some people feel very vindicated that they fought so hard, and I congratulate you. Good job. Again, after the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, I was curious about what it was going to be like, but I wasn't one of those people that really had to see the film. I wasn't campaigning for it. I wasn't saying release the Snyder Cut and all this other stuff. So for that, I was curious. But, the more I saw, the more I was curious about what it was going to be, what the differences were between that and the theatrical cut. So again, sat down Thursday and watched it. And kind of my general impression of it was that it was okay. I wasn't overly impressed. I mean, it wasn't a mind-blowing experience that some people think they're having with this film. And if they are, that's great. It's a piece of art. It's subjective, okay? And these people who are now saying that Zack Snyder's Justice League is way above whatever Marvel ever did, and it's better than Endgame, and better than Infinity War, and better than the whole Marvel universe. Okay, that's not my opinion. That's your opinion. We're allowed to have different opinions. And that's cool. But when I sat down with the movie and watched it, you get about halfway through. Remember, it's a 4-hour movie. So 2 hours through, I think you finally get to the first fight with Steppenwolf, between the Justice League and Steppenwolf, underneath Gotham Harbor. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, 2 hours have passed. The movie's half over. And first off, I feel like not a lot had happened. But also, it's the exact same story, okay? Plot for plot, almost scene for scene. There are things that are missing, of course, compared to the theatrical cut, with the whole cyborg storyline in there. There's some extended action sequences. There's even a little more with Aquaman, and you actually see William Dafoe a little bit. You have a few more dialogue pieces with Mara, played by Amber Heard. I get it, but when you look at it, it's the same movie. Is really what it is, and for that, I guess I was unimpressed by it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was good. And, I think people who really wanted this, I'm glad they're happy with it. For me, it's a 4-hour movie that I could watch in two. Now, granted, of course, the 2-hour version isn't great, but they're similar enough, honestly, where I'm fine watching the 2-hour cut instead of the 4-hour cut from now on. Which, incidentally, I did sit down last night, laid down last night, and watched the theatrical version of Justice League just to compare it, So Thursday I watched the Zack Snyder cut, and that kind of got me in the mood to go back and revisit the original version, the theatrical version, to compare them. And obviously, the biggest thing in my eyes was the coloring. The coloring in the theatrical cut was so much more brighter compared to the Snyder cut, and that's just how Zack Snyder does his movies. Again, I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder. I don't think he's a horrible filmmaker, but I wouldn't call myself a fan of his work. But I gotta, kind of give him some props for being able to come back to this project that gave him so many headaches, and a project that represents a dark time in his life, probably one of the worst days of his life, and come through and finish this. So I give him all the respect in the world for letting his vision finally come to fruition. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, guys, is usually what I like to do as far as movie reviews. I'll go through, pull up IMDb, and kind of go through actor for actor, kind of how I felt about their role in the film or their character in the film. That way I can, try to hit everything as much as I can, because otherwise I'll forget so much stuff. And even when I do this, I still forget a bunch of stuff. But again, going for spoilers. So if you, don't want to be spoiled, turn it off, watch the film, and then come back. So, all right. So starting off, top of the list, Bruce Wayne Batman, played by Ben Affleck. A casting, of course, which Ben Affleck was casted. A lot of people didn't like. Now people love him as Batman. Totally understandable. Now, again, I watched this and the theatrical cut. So really, I'm just kind of comparing the two. There was 2 scenes in the theatrical version that were not in the Snyder cut. One of them was when the group or Bruce decided he wanted to bring Superman back, and he was talking to Alfred, played by Jeremy Irons, about if that's really a good idea or not. And just Bruce talking about he's more human than I was. He lived in this world. He had loved ones. The world needs him back. It's really what it is. And I really love that scene, especially that line about he was more human than I was, even though he was an alien. And then the other scene that was not in the Snyder cut, that was in the theatrical cut, was after they had fought Superman, come back, resurrected, and Diana and Bruce are talking. And it's a scene where she's like, you can't do this forever. And he's like, I can barely do it now. And they talk about how Diana, had been kind of in hiding for 100 years, mourning the loss of Steve Trevor in the shadows, and really she was a powerful beacon of hope, that she should have been out there, helping more, is what it is. And that wasn't in the Snyder cut either, the whole storyline. They added more with Cyborg, they added more with Aquaman, they added more with Flash, but that storyline that I really loved in the theatrical cut about Diana coming out of hiding to do more, that wasn't in there. So those were 2 scenes that I really enjoyed in the theatrical cut that weren't in the Snyder cut. And, just to take a minute to pause, there are things about this, especially towards the end, that, I wasn't a huge fan of, but Zack Snyder, he said in this is the film that he wanted to do. This is the film that he originally wanted to make. And he originally, I think it was 5 films is kind of what he was planning. He planned Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, then a Justice League 2, and another Superman film. Kind of a 5 picture plan is what he had. So again, he set out to be like, yeah, there's going to be a cliffhanger to this because there was supposed to be more after it. He made the film that he originally wanted to make, which is why you get, the cliffhangers or the question marks at the end of it. Whether he'll get a chance to continue it, I honestly don't think so because again, going back to the Variety article that came out, where even when, him and his wife, Deborah, came to Warner Brothers to present them with the Snyder Cut to put on HBO Max, Warner Brothers, at that time, wanted to just release it as is, without, the special effects done or the music done or anything like that. And Zack Snyder refused because he knew if he did that, Warner Brothers just wanted to shut up the people who were screaming about release the Snyder Cut all these years. And if you released an unfinished version of it, all the executives could be like, see, it sucks. You guys were talking for nothing all the time. And Zack Snyder knew that. So he made sure that he was able to finish the film the way he wanted. And of course, it cost a lot of money. And I think some Warner Brothers executives who greenlit the money to finish it might not be in the best place right now. But anyway, it's finished. It's what he wanted. Again, mad props for him to do that. And, the cliffhangers at the end and all the other question marks, it's because there was supposed to be more after it, is what it was. So he stuck to his vision. So again, mad props to him. All right, Henry Cavill as Superman / Clark Kent. Mustache gauge. It all came down to when they wanted to do reshoots for Justice League after Joss Whedon took over. Henry Cavill coming back, he couldn't shave his mustache because he was doing the Mission Impossible film, and he couldn't shave it because he was still doing that. And so they digitally removed it. It looked horrible in the film. It really did. But I remember walking out of the original, theatrical version of Justice League, and I got out of the film thinking, for the first time in 2 or 3 films, I felt like we truly got Superman. What Superman, represents, who he is, his kind of personality, a little more lighthearted, really, is what it came down to. And, I enjoyed that. Yes, the mustache gate was horrible completely, but I loved at the end, where he leaves the battle to save people, and he makes a joke. Is this guy still bothering you? I liked it. I liked him better in the theatrical cut versus this one, where he just goes and puts on a black suit and pretty much just kills Steppenwolf, is what it comes down to. It is what it is. Amy Adams as Lois Lane. This version of her, she was mopey the whole time, pretty much. You didn't have a lot of her. It didn't seem like you had a lot of her because of the film was so much longer. Like, it felt like she played a more important role in the theatrical version because, again, the film 4 hours versus 2 hours. She's going to be in more scenes in a 2-hour movie. In this version, she's sad about Superman. She goes to the memorial, the statue every day, till eventually Martian Manhunter comes and tells her she needs to move on, pretty much. And, she's about to move on when all of a sudden Clark shows up, of course, the exact same time that she's there to say goodbye, takes him away, all that stuff happens, and, we know from there. So, again, I like the theatrical better. The ending part, too, because in the theatrical version, she's kind of stepped back from, being the reporter that we all know she is. And in both versions, once she's technically talking to Martha about it, in both of them, even though the Snyder Cut is Martian Manhunter, we both know, it is. And at the end, there's she does the voiceover of the theatrical cut, whereas in the Snyder Cut, it's Cyborg's dad, Dr. Stone, that does the voiceover for really kind of the end, technically the end of it. And honestly, I like the Lois Lane version better. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman / Diana Prince. Again, the theatrical version had this whole storyline of Diana realizing that she had been in hiding all these years, and she needed to step out and become a beacon of hope for the people because she has the power to do so. That, I didn't really even see that in Snyder Cut. I mean, they added so much more with Cyborg and Aquaman and Flash, but I felt like they took away a little bit from Wonder Woman in this film. Now, there were some extended action sequences. I know her fight with Steppenwolf had a little more to it than the theatrical cut, and that was cool. There was, there was even the Aquaman extended action scene when Steppenwolf was trying to get that mother box. There's a little more to that action sequence as well. Even the Themyscira action sequence, there's more extended to it all, and I enjoyed those parts of it. But again, I think Wonder Woman's storyline just kind of missed something a little bit versus the theatrical version. And there's stuff like that, like the extended action sequences and the extra cyborg storylines and all that, that I thought was, really good. I really liked the addition of them. But again, there was just other stuff that didn't need to be in there. I mean, a 4-hour movie, you could easily have made this movie 3 hours and it would have been great. But again, my opinion, everyone has their own. Ray Fisher as Cyborg, again, okay. Ray Fisher, of course, has been very vocal against Joss Whedon, Jeff Johns, other Warner Brothers executives about how they were treated on set after Zack Snyder left. He's been very, very vocal about it, so much to where, I think he's kind of ruined his relationship with Warner Brothers, and that's his own personal choice. He does what he feels is right, and that's fine. But I know there was the story about how, in the Snyder Cut, there was a lot more for Cyborg to do. And you saw it. This was it. I mean, Cyborg was very central to the Snyder Cut, to this version of the film. So, finally got what he was talking about all these years. I think it would have been better for the character if that would have been added in there. But again, going back and watching the theatrical cut as well, give me some flashbacks that they showed of him, how he really got into this situation. I didn't like that his dad died. I didn't like, how his dad died in the Snyder Cut versus in the theatrical cut he lived. And at the end, you see them together, still working out what Victor can do. I wish some of the storyline was in there, but at the same time, I like some of the stuff that, the theatrical cut did too. Jason Momoa's Aquaman, not very different compared to what we saw. The only scene that comes to mind in the Snyder Cut is the one with William Dafoe as Volko, where he's kind of telling Arthur that, hey, you need to step up and, fight, really, is what it is. And, you see him kind of get the armor and the trident that he uses in the battle against Steppenwolf. So you kind of missed out on that in the theatrical cut. And again, that's a 2-minute scene you could have added to the theatrical cut. Why, just to, again, fill in plot holes is what it is. How did he get the armor? How did he get the trident? You didn't get that in the theatrical cut. You got that in the Snyder Cut. Would 2 minutes really have been that big of a difference? Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, The Flash. Again, when the theatrical cut came out, he was really, the humor of it is what it was. He was the guy laughing, doing all the jokes. The Snyder Cut, of course, there was the big one at the end where he was kind of essentially turning back time. Okay, I didn't see that character arc for him throughout this film. Like, the fact that he was the pivotal person in this version because he's the one that really saved everybody by running back in time. I didn't get that buildup in this film. I felt like Cyborg was really central to it all. And in the theatrical version, everything was about Superman, about getting Superman back. That if we got Superman back, we would win. And they did. So when we get to the end of this one, and Flash is the central character that essentially saves everyone, I felt like there wasn't that build-up to give him that moment in this version. And then speaking of other scenes, there's a scene where we actually meet Iris West. Who is playing Iris West? I forget the actress's name. They just announced she was going to be in the Flash movie that's finally getting made. But anyway, that scene too, why was it in there? I mean, I know, again, Zack Snyder made the version that he originally wanted to make with the thought of having more films. So that's the version he wanted. But again, that's something that added nothing to the film in my eyes. And I don't know, if you're making a film, I can see why it was taken out. And, it's a 10, 15-minute scene maybe that really is kind of pointless in a 4-hour movie. Just me. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor pops up at the end, and it's a little different. In the theatrical cut, we got the post-credit scene where he escapes prison. He's on the boat with Deathstroke, and he tells Deathstroke in the theatrical version that, they should form their own league to fight the Justice League. In this version, he actually tells Deathstroke that, Bruce Wayne is Batman. And Deathstroke, having a grudge against Batman, likes that information. And remember, this version, this is back when Ben Affleck was still going to do the Batman film as far as directing, writing, starring, and his villain was going to be Deathstroke. So, again, that ties into the original idea for the whole, DC universe going forward. Even, that scene I just talked about with Barry and Iris, where, again, that was going to be a part where it was probably going to come back into play in the Flash movie, but because of everything that happened, it didn't go down that way. So all these other scenes that I'm seeing, I'm like, well, this is pointless because it's not going anywhere. This is pointless because it's not going anywhere. And Zack Snyder, the Warner Brother executive that say this is a cul-de-sac with this film. It's what could have been or what could have led to, but it's not. It's not going anywhere. And, you just have to sit and watch it for what it is, which is, again, almost like an alternate reality of, where they could have gone with everything, but they won't. Jeremy Irons is Alfred, still great. I don't see too big a difference. The only thing was the third act of the film, they took out that Russian family, I know, from the theatrical cut, which was fine. And the third act played out a little bit. The final battle played out a little bit differently. And I will say, watching both, the theatrical cut and the Snyder cut, I don't know which one I like more. I think I like the Snyder cut version of the whole third act better. But, again, the Superman stuff I liked in the theatrical cut a little better, honestly. So it's a tough choice. But there was that one scene where kind of Alfred is being introduced to all the other Justice League members as they're walking by. So that was a pretty good scene with that. Connie Nielsen as Queen Hippolyta? Yeah, that's how you say it. Wonder Woman's mom. The movie was maybe a half hour in, maybe 40 minutes in. And I think we got to the point where we are at the Amazon action sequence. And while I say the action sequences extended were a little better, this one just seemed to drag on forever. And especially with all the slow motion to it, I was like, before the first hour was done, I was so sick of all the slow motion. I thought it was just dragging. Again, it's all style, no substance. When you do it over and over again like that, it loses its meaning so much when you do too much slow motion like that, especially so early on in a film. So also the music. The music was just so weird. The music choices for this film were just very odd for me. Didn't seem like they fit with what was going on. And every time Wonder Woman came on, you had kind of that, not the Wonder Woman theme music, because you had a little bit of it, but there was like that other like ominous, compared to the movie Troy, like the music you get kind of in the movie Troy. You get that every time Wonder Woman comes in, and it didn't feel like it fit. The music to me in this version felt like it was just off. And again, my opinion, you have yours, I have mine. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Steppenwolf, yes. He looked different in this version compared to the other version. In this one, they kind of gave his armor a little purple shine because in the comic books, he does have a little bit of purple. I gotta say, yes, he wasn't great in the theatrical version. I like his look better, though, in the theatrical version because in the Snyder Cut version, he's so done up and so out of proportion, I guess. At least with the theatrical cut, you kind of saw the distinctions of his face, where this one, he's so armored up and so CGI, he just barely doesn't look like anything in terms of a person or anything. They did kind of work a little bit on his personality. In the theatrical cut, he was talking to Mummy is what it was. In this one, he actually talked to Darkseid and the other minions. I did think, though, too, the backstory we got with Darkseid and Steppenwolf in this one, a little better. I think, seeing how Steppenwolf was our main villain still in this version, I feel like you should have, focused more on Steppenwolf as far as the backstory portion of it, which they did in the theatrical cut. Also, it very much seemed like, kind of the prelude to Lord of the Rings, when you're talking about how the world of men and elves and everyone came together to fight Sauron, and kind of the same thing where, the Atlanteans and the Amazons and the gods and the humans, everyone came together to fight Darkseid. Very much the same vibe on an epic scale. It's supposed to be an epic film, which the Snyder Cut definitely felt like an epic film, epic version. When it comes to Steppenwolf, like I said, I liked still the theatrical version better as far as his look. Personal choices, man. It's what we all believe in. It was cool to see Ryan Chow in there. Ryan Chow going to be the Atom in the comic book. So the fact that he was in there helping out Silas Stone, of course, setting up possible Atom film. So that was cool, but again, something that wasn't going to go anywhere. Amber Heard as Mara came back, of course, for this one. So, okay, I'm going to talk about that nightmare sequence at the end. Bruce Wayne's dream again at the end. It was all the setup of Justice League 2. I totally understand that. And we know that, on top of the CG effects and the music and all the things that Zack Snyder did to get his version done, he also filmed some other stuff. And we heard that, come back to refilm. He brought in Jared Leto, Ben Affleck, Amber Heard, Joe Manganiello. And you realize, when you heard about all the people that were coming back to film, you realize it was probably for this scene. Because if Jared Leto comes back to film, more stuff for this film, well, it was the only scene he was in. So obviously it had to be a thing, the new scene that they filmed while they were trying to finish this cut of it. And again, it's something that was setting up possible future films that we'll never see. And this version of Mara, where she has a British accent, I don't know Amber Heard actually very well, so I don't know if she actually has a British accent. Is she British? I don't know. I remember in the Aquaman movie, the bright red hair bothered me a little bit. So this one, it's a little more toned down, more of a strawberry red. And honestly, I enjoyed this version of the character a little better than the actual Aquaman movie. Not to say that, like that version, but I like this one a little bit better. And it would have been cool to see this version in the Aquaman movie. But, the Justice League, all plans got changed after Batman v Superman and Justice League and all that. They shifted gears, which was for the better because the Aquaman movie made $1 billion. So whatever they did seemed to have worked. And you can definitely see, you can't really go from this film to the Aquaman movie. I think you can, but I think with the difference between with Volko and with Mara, it doesn't fit. What the Aquaman movie is, I believe. Aquaman is, fitting more to the version, the theatrical cut, if anything. But, and when the theatrical cut came out, there were the things where they made those air pockets so they could speak underwater. And I remember watching it and I'm like, oh God, if this is how the entire Aquaman movie is going to be, where they have to make these air pockets so that, they can talk underwater, that was going to be so annoying. But they did it again with Volko in this one, where he had to make the air pocket to talk to Arthur. And maybe Zack Snyder hadn't figured out how to do the underwater talking yet. And, we had to have someone else do it, perhaps. That's how it is. At least, was it James Wan? Yeah, James Wan did Aquaman. He figured it out, and I think he made a solid film on that, so props to him. All right, well, I think I covered all the characters, which means I think I covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. Now, again, this film, you could truly see this was Zack Snyder's vision of the film that he originally wanted to make. A film that was supposed to have more films added to it. You could watch this film and see how you could easily get a Cyborg movie, a Flash movie, an Aquaman. Everyone could, get their own solo films because it did do a good job of setting up all the characters. I totally give them, props for that. And of course, setting up that Darkseid is still coming. That, Darkseid, he lost this battle with Steppenwolf against the Justice League, but he is still coming for Earth. Now that he knows the anti-life equation is there, something that, again, if you're not really a DC fan, you don't really know what it is. And again, you're not going to find out what it is because there's going to be no sequels, allegedly, for this movie. But in any event, it's a film that, yes, it's 4 hours long. It's what Zack Snyder wanted. And for that, I have to really appreciate that, again, a director, an artist got to see his vision fulfilled. And totally makes me smile and happy. However, it's a 4 hour movie that, cut it down an hour, and still be good. Will I ever watch this version again? Probably not, honestly. No, I don't think I'm ever going to watch this version again, but I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad people, are enjoying it. But, just, it's not my cup of tea, I guess, so I'll watch the theatrical version and stick with that. And that's what we got, I guess. So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's it for me. You guys can fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let me know what you think about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know a lot of people had a lot of opinions about it. And again, if you like this version, great, awesome. You like it better, great, cool. I totally see why. I don't dislike it. I just think it's very bloated and full and unnecessarily long. That's just me. It's art. We all have opinions on art. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong, despite what some people on the internet think. So that's it, guys. Again, let me know what you think of the film. I will be glad to talk about this all day, every day. So go out, enjoy your week, enjoy your lives. And until next time, may the force be with us all.